come in and help us solve it. The tenants, the landlords, the city, the community. I think we need to have that discussion after we get through the budget process. So city manager, if you make a note of that.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Russo?
And just real quick, I'd like to have that conversation too, because I get a lot of those calls. And, you know, I go back and forth, if your bathtub is falling in, the mold issues, and the first thing I say, are you prepared to move? And 90% of them are not financially, and they cannot move. So they live in those situations. And I've had some that have called me back and said, you know, I just can't do it anymore. Can you please help? I have to move. I know I have to move, but can you help? You know, and a lot of times, like you had said, they find out the complaints coming from internally, they throw them out, they do very little to the property, and there's somebody right behind them in the same situation that rents the property. So, you know, we have to get in, we have to start cleaning up these properties, and, you know, just a for rent sign outside alerts me to a property that, you know, is a rental. And bottom line is, if they're renting a beautiful property, all they have to do is have a business license. If they have a property that's falling down around children or occupants, absolutely not acceptable.
Commissioner Meyer?
Couldn't we lighten some of this burden on the department by directing these types of people to address their issues through the legal system? I mean, as I understand it, the law is preferential to the renter. They would put the renter in a situation where their rent was going into escrow and put the landlord in a situation where they would not receive that escrow unless they fix those issues. It seems a much more expedient process and would certainly take away some of our load that we clearly already seem to be overloaded.
I think that we do a very good job of directing people to the resources that are available in Palm Beach County. We use Legal Aid Society, we use on the Lord's Place Homeless Shelter, we use the other resources, Department of Family and Children's Services. We make referrals a lot, but many of the people that contact us aren't aware those resources are there. And so we are working with them to get them to the right place. Most of those entities do, I think, a fairly good job of making people aware that they exist. But for some reason, we have lots of people that feel like they don't have any rights because they are a tenant, or they are harder on their luck, or just a little bit challenged. And so we do try to help them as best we can.
Final comment.
I'll let you know if it's not. Okay.
You'll let me know? Good. The city manager and I have been talking about this particular option for quite some time, and some of the mechanics behind it, and I guess we're going to be having a meeting with you and the manager myself. But one of the components of that discussion is to in fact include a list of the standard landlord-tenant law statutes from Florida, but also a list of resources locally, legal aid and others, that can actually be given to tenants when they get the utilities turned on. Boom, here's your tenant rights and responsibilities, here's your landlord rights and responsibilities, here's the landlord-tenant law, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that would be a huge help for folks.
And we can do that.
We embarked on this journey with code enforcement, sort of loosely copying the Milwaukee model and trips and everything that were made to review that. And it had the two strong components about tenant education and responsibilities, and the responsibilities and education of the landlords as kind of the carrot approach. Unfortunately, we're in a stick approach right now because there's a lot of interesting things happening out there that are potentially health, safety, and welfare issues. So coming back to the proposal, it sounds like we need to do some more tweaking on some of the concepts, but at the end of the day, I'm hearing that there's a real interest in taking this approach and really trying to get ahead of the lack of compliance. It's not fair that people are living in certain circumstances where there are not minimum standards for safety and cleanliness and anything else, or there may be illegal, permitted, unpermitted activities in these properties. We need to get at that.
Especially for
It will
our
raise,
children and families.
it'll improve the neighborhoods, it'll improve the quality of life of the people who use those facilities, but it's also not fair to the people who are half the other side is complying. And they've invested in their properties, they take care of their properties, they take pride in their properties. You can spot the rental units and the multi-families and different ones around where you know those people are really part of Lake Worth, and they're taking that pride. And it's a stark difference from some of these properties we believe we're gonna be getting at. It's not gonna be popular with everybody, because here comes the government again. But it's our process to try to get this sense that you come to Lake Worth, you can do anything. No, we have certain minimal community standards, and they are minimal. It's not Boca Raton, it's not Delray. The things that are going on, we need to get at. So if you're in agreement, we'd like to continue to pursue this.
We'll also be bringing to you probably in the next few months, some proposals to expand the chronic nuisance ordinances the city has. Right now, those are triggered by calls of service from PBSO, which is kind of hard to manage and operate. It also includes the activities from the city for lot clearings, orders, and demolitions. I'm working with the city attorney's office. They've been getting in it slowly, but what we'd like to propose is that chronically nuisance properties that have, say, code violations that have existed for an extended period of time, say 12 months as an example, or 15 months, of which we can't really afford to foreclose, can they be declared a chronic nuisance? And the city then incur the cost to do minimal fixing up, which may include boarding it up, working with PBSO to remove the tenants if that's an unsafe situation, and work with other outside agencies to find them a new home, and then place that property in some other kind of stable, secure manner, and so the property owner can bring it about. Mr. Maxwell and I have talked about it. We have properties that have been a nuisance and running a code fine for years. And I feel very strongly that those properties are a nuisance to the neighborhood, and we don't have a lot of teeth unless we can actually broaden that chronic nuisance program we already have.
Thank you. Do you have one more slide? Thank you. Do you have one more slide?
That was it. Well, there was one more that just showed the organization as it would be under option 2. It just shows one more staff person.
Okay, thank you. Public services. Come on down.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commission. Jamie Brown, Public Services Director. What I've done here is just basically laid out a little chart of what we currently have versus what we're kind of looking to do. In streets, right now we do have a combined street stormwater division, so keep that in mind when you're looking at these positions. We're looking to actually transition the 2 part-time maintenance technicians we have right now into full-time, which would give us an additional 22 hours between those 2 positions, and then the addition of 3 traffic maintenance technicians. So we would be going from 98 hours a week, which we're currently doing, to 240 hours a week in streets,
For street maintenance.
for street maintenance. Along with that are 2 very important pieces of equipment, which are going to allow us to do a lot more than we're currently doing. One is a 5-ton roller, and the other is a 6-ton asphalt paver.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I gotta ask, I remember a few years back, a frigid spring morning, the mayor and
I remember.
were you there?
You was there.
Out there in my shorts, and it was kind of chilly that day, but I liked it just the way it was. But we were out there shoveling asphalt off that new piece of equipment, whatever you called it.
Our hot box.
The hot box.
What happened to the hot box?
What's going on with the hot box? I don't see
We
the
still have
hot
the hot box.
Well, where do you deploy it? I mean, I'd like to see the hot box once they got it.
But the idea or the purpose of the hot box is before we didn't have one, we had to have the asphalt brought, and we were doing cold patch back there. When we switched to hot patch, we now needed to be able to keep asphalt hot all day long so we could take it from location to location. That's what that box allowed us to do. We were still, and we are still doing it by hand. However, we're cutting out everything by hand, we're replacing the potholes by hand when we're doing hot patch. That's why we're looking at the machine now. So we can
What-
do larger areas, but we are still using the hot box, yes.
So you're cutting out your squares,
Correct.
and then you're bringing the hot box behind it, and that's, so when you actually cut out an area,
Mhm.
that's an area that's gonna be complemented with the hot box.
Correct, that's hot asphalt that we're using straight out of the box.
As opposed to somebody who just comes by and like the good old days where they just dump some cold patch in there and they start running.
And tamp it and compact it, and then that's the cold patch,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Well,
That's correct.
I asked this the last time, because people today are still seeing, as you said last time that you come around, but they're seeing asphalt in the potholes, loose gravel in the potholes, and then they're saying we don't come around to them.
We come back to them. The whole point is when we get, because our list is very, very long and continues to grow on a daily basis. But when we get reports of, large potholes, we can't just leave them like that until we get around to actually cut them all out, because it's more of a process with the hot patch. We have to go and fill those. So what people are seeing is a temporary fix of us kind of just filling it for the time being,
Until you get
compacting until we can actually come back and cut everything out properly.
Okay.
We're trying to minimize
So are
the
you,
broken axles and.
are you always doing the
tires.
cutouts, or sometimes you just patching the hole?
The hot patching is what we were doing for everything. When you just see us filling the hole quickly, that's just because we haven't gotten to it yet on the actual list, the pothole list. There's the
I
two
still think
separate.
I still think I
What's the
see
color on it?
fresh, round potholes. I know what the patch looks like, because we did it, but I'm still thinking I
It's
see.
rectangular, everything, when we do the potholes directly, we actually come out and you'll see a rectangle. It's a distinct, we cut out an actual square. Compact the base, put it in the hot.
I thought I saw
asphalt.
fresh, round ones. Anyone else see fresh, round ones?
But he's saying that's temporary.
No, I'm talking about a fresh sealed round one. Like a lot of places. Anyone else?
It's the pothole vigilante.
This is the pothole fair. Go ahead.
Now, my first question is, so what's the difference between throwing something in that pothole or putting a barricade over the pothole? There's been a barricade over a pothole on the south end by Bryant Park on like 2nd or 3rd for months.
On second or third.
Yeah, I drove by it again today, but I've had a couple calls on it, and I only realized what they were talking, no, actually it's farther up. It's by South Bryant Park.
And you're sure it's a pothole? that-
It's a pothole with a barricade in the middle of it. A metal
There
barricade.
has to be another issue with that then. It's gotta be more than just a
Well, that's what,
I'll look at that.
well, we're
I'll
also
see what
looking
exactly
at
that is.
because I drove by it again today, and I think it's farther up. But my question here is, okay, so if we're looking at, putting 3 people full-time, and let's just say something crazy happens like a bomb, and we're actually gonna fix all these roads, what would the 3 full-time people then be doing?
Well, keep in mind, we're struggling just to kind of keep up with things now. We're really not keeping up with everything, so these people are needed, bond or no bond. And the bond, that's separate because we still have roadway maintenance.
Okay, and so
This is-
that's what I'm trying to get at, so
this is
these
all
will be
maintenance.
full-time maintenance people.
These are full-time
Just to
maintenance
take care of the roads that we wouldn't be addressing under a bond.
Correct, and even if we get a bond, those are separate projects that are gonna be done by an actual contractor. That's not something that we done in-house.
Okay, so this is full-time, 3 full-time people.
Full-time, and then transitioning the other 2 current part-time positions to full-time. The issue we're having now as well, which is why our list is growing, we're having issues to actually keep anyone staffed up. It's hard work, it's hot work, and those part-time positions are not filled that often.
Well, and that makes sense.
It's continuous turnover, and we're having an issue just keeping everything staffed up.
They want
So-
full-time work.
They want full-time
Exactly,
work,
they want
yeah.
benefits, they want,
and this is hot work.
and it's hot work, yes.
So where does that, I'm sorry, where
I was
does
just
that,
saying transition those to full-time should help with keeping this department staffed up.
where does that put us in regards to, when we talked last time and said, okay, well, $500,000 was budgeted for roadways, but really 300 of the 500 went to pay for streetlights, which was leaving us with 200,000 to actually do our road maintenance. So where would this take us budget-wise? Where are we at dollar-wise? Because if everyone's thinking we have $500,000 for maintenance, which is which is incorrect in the past. Does this get us close to at least having $500,000 for maintenance? Because remember, bond or no bond, those roads still need to be fixed, and not every road is affected by any improvement plans. So those roads are eventually gonna deteriorate and go down in value, and every road is gonna need a maintenance plan. I wanna be good stewards of the next people in line and the next people in line after that, and know that we put something realistic into place that's going to make us,
This is getting us closer, because step 1 is staffing up where we need to be.
okay.
That's step 1. This is getting us 2.45 times more work than we're currently being able to do.
Correct.
So that's kind of step 1 in the process. Because right now, if we had a lot more money for maintenance, I'm not gonna be able to do much more, because I don't have the staff to do it.
Right.
Just like if we added machinery without the bodies, they just gonna sit there, I just don't have the people to do it.
Okay.
So this is step one on the pathway.
It's a good step, Commissioner Rosa.
And in the future, and maybe as we move forward too, like William did in his, he actually broke it down and said, there's a truck needed the first year, and this is what it's gonna cost every year after. Can we see some costs
Yeah.
for not only this, but as we move through the rest of the funds, just physically, we can see that, you know, it's gonna cost an extra $50,000, it's gonna cost, you know, what
It's
this
in
looks
here.
like. I didn't find it here, it's in the blue pack, but it's easier if I see it in the short,
Okay.
just like William did in his. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Jamie, would you go back to the two new pieces of equipment that you wanted to get, the roller and what else?
It was a roller, 5-ton roller and then a 6-ton paver, asphalt paver.
The question is it your intention to buy new?
Is the intention to buy new? Yes.
And the reason I ask is because I've seen enough rollers and they're 500 years old and they seem to be very functional. Are we better off, you know, instead of a huge capital expenditure like that, when we really don't have a robust, you know,
Yeah.
kick butt road screw here to go out and buy a shiny new piece of equipment like that, when I've seen these things and they've got to be 20, 30 years old out there that are still rolling, you know, doing their road work. Is that something?
Well, we're budgeting 38, we're probably looking around $30,000 for a new one.
That's all they cost?
Yeah, and we're budgeting another like
Disregard
7
what
for
I
the
just said.
actual trailer for itself, so we're looking at basically 38,000 for roller, trailer, and we're looking at about 62,000 for the paver and the actual trailer, so we're not talking about a lot.
I'm thinking like garbage truck type expenditure, you know, a couple, $300,000.
Unless we get the upgrade on the roller rims and the cup holders.
How long do they
The
last?
cup holders are extras, so,
How long do they last?
but if we, you know, we're obviously budgeting for new, if we find a great deal on.
No, I was
You
just, because I don't have it, I don't seem to have it here in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
for a piece of equipment like that, when at the end of the day, they're gonna get dirty, nasty, and ugly, and they work forever. So, but if they're only $30,000 or whatever, not that $30,000 isn't a lot of money, but
Commissioner Ryan? Ryan Myers?
I've never priced asphalt or gravel before, but if you double your ability to do roadway maintenance, is the cost of your materials negligible, or is that something to be considered as well?
That's considered as well.
And
We have an
do
increased
we have
cost
numbers
in-
there regarding that?
It's in the blue pack.
We can get those to you.
I can get those to you.
Sounds great.
We'll completely flesh out all those numbers so you get a all-in cost.
Okay.
Also as part of what you just requested as well.
Please follow.
And, sorry if I missed it, how much was it per staff roughly? Or what was the annual salary?
Let's pull out the
It's
blue
in
book,
that
guys,
blue
because,
book,
yeah.
but I asked for it to be on that page, so it's easier to read for future.
Public Services Administration, salaries and wages. See that?
It was 15 something for, yes.
Mr. City Manager?
Yes.
If I may, for the traffic maintenance technician, it's approximately 57,000 per position, and that includes benefits.
Thank you.
57,000.
Thank you.
And are they in need of trucks? That we don't have?
No,
Okay.
no, very vehicles. The main thing was the actual pieces of equipment.
Did you have a follow-up, Commissioner Martin?
Thank you.
Marson?
And just to go back to what Commissioner Maxwell said, I know that there's companies that we use to buy used equipment and stuff, and I know that the Florida League of Cities has a lot. So if you could just take a little look and see, you know, maybe somebody's sitting on something that they need to get rid of that, you know, is fairly new, that, you know, will cut the cost in half.
We always look at it.
Okay, I know you do, I'm just.
Yeah, for
making
all
sure
our
that
equipment, we
people know
always
you're
check before purchase.
There's no leases?
Well, if we don't find anything, we use the Florida Sheriff's contract to do it.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
there's different things that you use, but I just wanted to put that out there publicly.
Okay. Gonna move on to grounds?
Okay, so for stormwater, the only change we're making, we're adding one position, we're adding one stormwater tech position, which just adds another 40 hours. So not a major change for stormwater.
At a cost of?
Stormwater.
Hurry, you should stand by with them amount numbers. You should have the blue book in hand.
It's probably close to $7.
Probably close to the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's $15.84 an hour.
Okay.
I'm sure what the benefits are. 52,309.
Okay. And these positions in yellow were not highlighted in our initial budget,
Correct.
correct? All the things that are highlighted that we're talking about are not in this one. Okay. Okay. Groundskeepers, equipment operators.
Ground is another fun one. So, as you're all aware, back in 2010, there was the mass cut to the budget, and we lost half of the grounds division. So our 36 went down very, very low. What I'm requesting this year, we're transitioning 2 part-time groundskeeper 1 positions into full-time groundskeeper 2 positions. So we're gonna gain another 22 hours a week with that, and then we're actually requesting 3 additional positions, 2 equipment operator 2s and 1 irrigation tech. So our total hours are going from 578 a week to the 720.
What are the equipment operators do? I'll give you an example of what they're working on.
The way our grounds is broken out is, obviously we have all the parks. We've got multiple levels of different things we're doing in grounds. So equipment operator 2s, their actual job could be any number of things. Like we had 1 equipment operator 2 doing all of our planters downtown with a water truck. Sometimes they have to help out in the cemetery. It's kind of like a jack of all trades position, depending on what exactly we need at the time.
They're operating the heavy equipment on multiple job sites depending on what's needed in those ground spaces.
Exactly, so actually upping this, we were going from 15 positions to 18 positions, this puts us at exactly half of what we were operating with back in 2010 when the layoffs happened. Now, what we're making up the rest of those 18 positions, we're outsourcing to a company called LD Superior, which are helping out with a lot of the vacant lots and some of the other areas around town that we just can't do with the number of staff that we have.
Commissioner Emerson?
Okay, first of all, you hear from me all the time.
I do.
Thank you for the median out in front of City Hall, but I'm not happy. I truly feel we need these people, but I'm still not happy that we canceled the contract with PBSO, with the inmates, and we're not getting the service that the people deserve. I call you on a regular basis, 10th Avenue, 6th Avenue, Lake Worth Road, and today they still all look like not what I'd like to see them look like, for lack of better words.
The other step, real quick, the debris specialists, we have 3 part-time debris specialist positions based out of refuse that are kind of doing the downtown. Those 3 positions would also be reclassed to a full-time position as a refuse collector, which now they would also, instead of just doing Lake and Lucerne, they would be able to do median work on 6th, on 10th, on Lake Worth Road. So that would, in addition to this, also help out.
Well, I can tell you that I only see 2 on a regular basis downtown, and I'm not happy with the downtown. The downtown still needs, as we increase our population, as we increase the events and everybody wants to be here, everything increases. So, I'm still, again, if I vote for this and we move this forward, and it's another year of me complaining, there's no mulch on Lake Worth Road, there's debris, things aren't cut back, 6th Avenue and 10th Avenue are corridors where people come in, and a big garbage collection, 6th Avenue constant, 10th Avenue constant, things aren't being cut back on a regular basis. When the inmates were here, it seemed like we called them, it was done, it seemed a lot easier with that group than it is with our own employees.
Well, and, we run into the same situation with the part-time positions here that we did in streets, where it's kind of a revolving door. Especially with, these two part-time positions, which basically have been vacant all year long. As far as the inmates, the issue with the inmates, it was about, I think it was 64,000 a year, somewhere.
50, line item 52 or something, 54.
Yeah, it was certainly, it ended up being right around $60,000. In their contract, they could have up to 6 people. They never did. They had their supervisor and on an average day, about three inmates. And they weren't here every day, which they could be here up to 5 days, or it could be 2 days. So there was really no consistency with it. When they were here, we had Kenny, one of our grounds guys, basically running the crew, kind of telling them where to go. It seemed better to get actual staff that we know is gonna be here every single day, that we can depend on, than to put that money into the inmates.
Okay, and I'm giving you the benefit of that, I don't wanna argue the fact, but I'm just saying, I saw a lot more being done, and, every time I call you, it's in between a contract, or we can't get out there, it took months and months to get the mess cleaned up out here and just get some basics, so, I'll vote for this, but I need within the next year to make sure that we're not in the same situation.
Yeah, and a lot of that too, keep in mind, we had a little shuffling with the actual ground supervisor position, and we ended up with, we're getting up to speed.
Okay.
But it's a process.
These main corridors and the main entrance that invites people into our city
Yes.
is where us need to focus.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, let me pile on a little bit. Why were we having trouble with the inmates? I mean, don't we basically tell them, if we've got a contract with them, you're supposed to be here X amount of days, or whatever, is not how that's supposed to work?
In theory, yes.
No, not theory, contractually, is that how it's supposed to work?
Contractually, no, and there is no changing that contract. There's no change in the contract. It's you can have up to 5 guys, but there's no guarantee.
I'm not really questioning whether they have 3 or 6, but I'm talking about why aren't they here every day?
Well, that's a big difference, though. 3 to 6.
Sure it
is a
is,
big
but
difference.
something's better than nothing. And what I'm getting at is, you're telling us that they really weren't here. Were they supposed to be here 5 days a week? Was that the idea?
Up to 5 days a
Up
week.
to.
That's how the contract is written. There is no set, you will be here 5 days a week, you will show up with at least 5 employees. That's not the way the contract's written. We had tried to actually modify some of the language of the contract,
Okay.
so it makes it a little more concrete, but they do not touch the contracts if you to take or leave it.
I got you.
And that was the issue.
And I have seen a couple of fellows riding around those really nice golf carts downtown. Are those the guys that we're talking about here that's supposed to be cleaning up?
Those are the part-time debris specialists.
You debris specialists, is that what you call them? Again, I have to agree with Andy, they're not getting her done.
I
And
understand.
they're not exactly moving at the speed of light either.
I understand that as well.
Is there something we can do about that?
This is what we're doing about that.
So are we gonna take the same Grease Lightning employees we have now and promote